the day after Royal Rumble 14. It is 1/27/14. I am Steve Gerweck, the webmaster of www.gerweck.net, Gerweck.net. As always, we've been presenting professional wrestling news, rosters, polls, divas of the day, TV ratings, pay-per-view results, audio show such as this, interviews since 1997, and in 2004, 2005, we also broke out and did the Gerweck Report Hotline, and my tag team partner from those days is back to give us his thoughts on last night's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. My good friend Frank D. How you doing today, Frank?
How you doing, Steve? I'm doing very good.
And I know the first thought is it's the Royal Rumble hangover, because judging by the reaction we were getting on the website and what I was seeing on social media, the fans were not happy. I think the bottom line last night, the fans at least wanted Daniel Bryan in the Royal Rumble. They didn't get it. He was, of course, on the first match on the pay-per-view. But last night, I think the fans really wanted Daniel Bryan to at least be in the match, maybe not necessarily win it. Of course, if he would have won it, went over, the place would have went nuts. But at the end of the day, I don't think, Frank, people really wanted to see Batista go over at the Royal Rumble.
Not at all. Not at all. I texted you last night about probably 8 p.m. My time, West Coast Pacific time, and I told you, the reaction from the crowd last night was good on that they thought this ending sucked. They came down to Roman Reigns and Batista, and Roman Reigns, went into this match as the heel with the Shield, and this guy had the whole arena behind him against Batista, who is supposed to be the bigger star. And for a moment there, I'm like, okay, maybe WWE is going to call an audible here and kind of change the plan. Maybe they want to go with something new. Maybe they can go with Roman Reigns versus Orton at WrestleMania. But you know what? They went with the same typical formula of Batista winning the Royal Rumble. And now we're going to see a match that we've seen so many times before in the past after these guys were done with Evolution. And we're going to see Batista versus Orton headlining WrestleMania 30, and we all know out there, whether you like the man or you hate the man, Daniel Bryan is the most over guy in the WWE. He is the most over guy in wrestling right now. The yes chant is the number one thing in wrestling, and for this guy not to have been a part of the Royal Rumble match itself, I don't understand the logic in that. And I saw where Mick Foley even tweeted that he was disgusted by the pay-per-view, and he said the question is, does the WWE hate their own audience? And that's very telling.
Now, you were talking about possibly calling an audible in the Royal Rumble match itself. I think, especially at the end when it got down to the Final Four, I think people, at least in that situation, would have rather seen Roman Reigns go over. Clearly, they were putting him over as a main star, and I saw the reaction from Steve Austin and The Rock, who really praised Roman Reigns last night. Had a real strong performance, lasted until the Final Four, and actually lasted to the very end of the match. A guy definitely on the rise in WWE, which is good to see. Some fresh faces come up to possibly be a big star in the company. But I thought the one point where they probably should have called an audible was the John Cena Randy Orton match, because fans were just chanting, "This is boring, this is awful." And I saw a couple people on social media say, "Go home now, end this match." And I know they're on a time schedule. They budget time for these matches, but watching that title match and fans just totally crapping on this match, and it was awful, it was boring. Boy, Frank, that probably should have been at some point. It's just, let's pull the plug on this and go to the next match, because fans did not want to see this match. And I think there's a lot of fans that are tired of John Cena. There's a lot of fans that are tired of Randy Orton. And here we are with these two in the ring on another pay-per-view on a main stage Royal Rumble. And, boy, they just were not into this match at all.
Yeah, the problem with the Randy Orton-John Cena feud that I see is that we've already saw this before in the past. We've already saw the spot where I believe Orton has attacked Cena's father during their 2009 feud, I believe. So we've already saw this, and then this past Monday night on Raw last week, we saw where John Cena, casually ran down to the ring to attack a man who had just beat his father's brains in the week before. But I mean, I'm kind of like, if somebody had attacked my father and beat him like that, I would think that I'm going to come at this guy with hell, fire, and brimstone, as say I used to call it with James Pyro. I'm going to go out there and start throwing bows, and that did not happen in this match. This match was methodical, boring Randy Orton, and he knew what he was doing. I saw the whole match there, and his whole attitude was, screw the people. I've already got your money, so screw you. And you can chant as much as you want. And every time they would chant, he would go back to that same chant of doom and just keep doing it and keep doing it. And I don't really, in this matchup here, I don't really fault Cena for it at all. I think Cena went out there and worked hard in that match there. It was all Orton. And Orton is the champion. So all this falls back on Randy Orton. And I can't say right now that Randy Orton as the champion is the best move going into WrestleMania. This guy is not exactly lighting the business on fire right now with his run, because I don't believe Randy Orton is a credible champion. This is not 2001, and you're not Chris Jericho. I don't like Jericho, but I would say Jericho is more charismatic than Orton. And it's not the same match with Jericho. This guy is doing the same stuff, and him and Cena they don't really have the same chemistry they did back in 2009 when they first got it on there. So I think really like it.
I think you make a great point, because we've seen feuds come up again where two people will feud and then later on they'll have another feud, and sometimes the second feud is better than the first feud. And I think a lot of that helps if somebody is a hot star. And you've got John Cena and Randy Orton, who are, neither one of them are hot. A lot of people are tired of these guys, and here they are at Royal Rumble in the championship match. And as you said, people just were not into this match. And I hope, if nothing else, and of course they're not going to do Orton versus Cena again anytime soon, and hopefully at least they don't do a rematch or something tonight on Raw. But I would think, Frank, if WWE is into the universe and they heard that reaction last night, is they get the point. Maybe we're a little tired of Cena, we're a little tired of Orton, and I do think there's still a chance, even though Batista won the Royal Rumble, that they may not go with Batista versus Orton at WrestleMania. That would probably mean that Daniel Bryan would have to win the match at Elimination Chamber, which is not out of the realm of possibilities. But I certainly got the sense, and of course we saw in Raw this week with Batista returning and telling Randy Orton that he came back to win the Royal Rumble and to come back and win the championship. I would think, Frank, they were foreshadowing that at WrestleMania, the main event, and it's hard for me to believe it, the main event at WrestleMania is going to be Batista versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship.
Well, like I said, everybody knows that Daniel Bryan should have been in that last night, and he should have had the feel good moment of Bryan finally going against the authority and getting that championship match he even won. And the bottom line is that ever since SummerSlam last year, he's been getting screwed over by the WWE as far as championship matches. He never really had that feel good moment. The guy was he was WWE champion for 10 seconds, and then they did the screw job there, and then the title was held up, and what did they call it? Ambiance. Or some crap they called it. So, Bryan really never had the feel-good moment, and last night they could have really done something and had that feel-good moment, and it really took WWE to another level with him. I think that something you and I were discussing, offline, was the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view coming up next month, and where Bryan could possibly become the WWE champion there. But it's like, that's a two-way street though, is you give him the belt at Elimination Chamber only to feed him to Batista at WrestleMania. And I don't like that idea either. I just don't care for it. The only way I can see this possibly working, and I know yourself, I know you're not a big fan of these matches, would be a triple threat, in which it would be Orton versus Batista versus Bryan, which Bryan would then win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. somehow he gets into the match. And maybe it's by maybe the guy who puts him in a match would be Vince McMahon. Don't know.
I would not. I'm not a big fan of triple threats. I think ECW probably did the best with triple threats. That was one of their main staples of matches. But on the big stage at WrestleMania, I really don't want to see a triple threat main event. I guess they could do that. Obviously, they have weeks to plan things out. I think the one thing that we should note here, going back to Daniel Bryan and his situation, he did an interview with a radio station in Michigan where he was very critical of WWE and said he really got over despite the Machine not wanting him to get over. And then there was reaction last night when he was not in the Royal Rumble, and he actually tweeted, he put, "Sorry guys, the Machine wanted me nowhere near the Royal Rumble match, but I thank everyone for their support." So it looks to me, Frank, if he's going to be critical of WWE, it's got to be a part of the storyline. I can't believe he would go too far away from the realm of reality because, as I told you, if he got in trouble, there's really nowhere to go. If he's not happy, I mean, you're not going to go to TNA, you're not going to go to Ring of Honor. This is the place to be. We got WrestleMania coming up. He's the most over star in WWE, but it really begs the question. I think we talked about this on the last podcast. How can Daniel Bryan, the most over babyface you have in the company, how can he not be in the main event at WrestleMania? Because years past, Frank, The Rock was in the main event at WrestleMania because he was the most over babyface. Stone Cold was in the main event because he was the most over babyface going into WrestleMania. How can you have your most over superstar babyface not geared towards WrestleMania? And to me, if he goes to WrestleMania by winning the Elimination Chamber, that just seems so lackluster when he could have easily won the Royal Rumble and really set a tone for that match at WrestleMania.
Right. It's kind of like you go back to WrestleMania 14, okay, with Shawn Michaels versus Steve Austin. Would that match have worked without Austin in it? Probably not. Same thing here with Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Bryan is the guy that the WWE universe is behind. Okay, this guy is a number one guy in the business. I mean, I don't care for CM Punk at all, so it's great for me. This guy has surpassed CM Punk for being the number two. He is now number one babyface in the company, and that's going over Punk and John Cena. So for them not to make the call to put Bryan in there, and if the rumored match is true of Bryan versus Sheamus at WrestleMania, that's a peg down in my opinion. I don't see how that would work, at all. And, I mean, the only other idea they could have probably done at the Rumble was they could have done a double winner type situation like they did with Luger and Bret Hart, which they go on to WrestleMania and go for the championship that night. They could have pulled that off, but, it's just a lot of stuff right now is just a lot of scratching your head, and you just don't understand the motivation of why they didn't put Daniel Bryan in the match. Why was Bryan in the Wyatt family to begin with? You go back to that storyline. What was up with that? Was somebody trying backstage to try to cool down his momentum, cool down the Jets, and then they saw the football game with the yes chants, and they got to be like, well, wow, we got to get this guy, over hot again because this is what people are liking. It's like, oh, okay, well, 1 minute we're going to get rid of the WCW belt, the World Heavyweight Championship belt, but wow, we sell a lot of replicas, so let's keep it going. So I don't get WWE's motivation. They're not listening to the universe as they say they do. Because the universe showed you last night that they did not want to see Batista versus Randy Orton. But yet that's the plan. And Sheamus versus Bryan is the other plan that was on the website the other day, which I understand the logic behind it, but I'm not liking it because it's Sheamus hasn't been around since what was it, Money in the Bank?
Yeah, it's been a while, it seems like.
Yeah. so Bryan is not Daniel Bryan is not at that level he was in July. He is way up there past that now. And Sheamus is a guy who has to be built back up to get to that level. So putting Bryan versus Sheamus at Mania, and it's the match that we already saw a couple years ago that lasted, what did they say, 18 seconds? It's not something that I want to see.
Yeah, right.
It's not really something that I want to see again. I don't want to see a WrestleMania with rematches.
And, too, the reaction, as we said, if you can go to Gerweck.net right now and read the reaction to all the individual matches, and, of course, we have the Royal Rumble recap up there. And I would encourage people also to go to the polls and vote. And it's interesting, Frank, when you look at the polls as we're doing this podcast, because it was like this last night. If you grade the pay-per-view, F, which is a failure, was winning easily. And as I do this right now, F has 45%. A C, second place, is 22%. So there's a lot of people not happy with this pay-per-view. Only 11 votes out of 316 as we do this, or 3%, say A. So the top grades are on the bottom. A is on the bottom. B is second from last with 11, and of course F is just clearly winning this poll. And I would be surprised if it doesn't end up. Clearly fans thought last night's show was a failure. I know. In talking to you, you wouldn't call it a failure, and we'll talk a little bit more about this pay-per-view. And I have to be honest, I only saw the second half of the show. I did not see the undercard. I saw parts of the championship match. I saw the end of the matches, last two matches. I was not impressed with what I saw, but Frank can obviously go a little bit more into the undercard, and maybe your reaction, Frank, to the New Age Outlaws winning the championship. But before we do that, real quickly, Frank, my thought was with what was going on and the reaction we're seeing, and I kind of think back to Eric Bischoff. Is WWE doing this really to piss off the universe so people are talking about it and they will tune in tomorrow night and they will order the pay-per-view because they're just so mad. They want to see things get better and improve, and they want to get so mad at the product that I'm forcing change. It's like WWE's finally going to listen to me. They're finally going to put Daniel Bryan in the main event because that's what we want. We're so boisterous. Is WWE purposely doing this to, controversy creates cash?
That kind of makes you wonder, is Bischoff working for WWE?
I wouldn't go that far, but just the thought of his book there kind of. I mean, the way they did the show, I mean, it just made people so mad last night, and even today the reaction is so negative on the show.
Well, you know something? As we were talking offline a little while ago, Daniel Bryan coming out with these interviews and these tweets that he's doing, and I kind of question if this is by design to get people talking and, like you said, watching Raw tonight to see the outcome of what's going to happen. That could very well be the case. Last night, I mean, I don't see anybody praising Big Dave for his Royal Rumble win. I mean, this guy was number 28 or something like that, and he was already blown up. It was done. So I mean, you save a guy to the end, and he comes in with his Batista, the new Batista, the Batista that's been hanging around Justin Bieber for the last week. That's the Batista we saw last night. And they need to go ahead and deport that Bieber guy to Canada. Go ahead and send him back because we don't need him. Anyways, that's the Batista that we saw last night, and it's just not the Batista 4 years ago. The Batista 4 years ago was just a guy who was this unstoppable monster heel. And he's a shell of himself now. But anyways, getting back to controversy creates cash. Very well could be the case because I didn't see Triple H or 70 on the show last night, and Bryan, being vocal, and WWE, causing all this controversy, stirring the pot. Very well could be the case. It very well could be the case. They want people to vote. They want you to get on social media and tell WWE how pissed off you are about what happened last night at the Rumble, and get on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. So I can see it being that. I can see it being by design. And if it's not by design, they're just a bunch of idiots up there in Connecticut.
Well, the other thought, too, was let's make people so mad at the current product that people want to buy the WWE Network and they can watch all the old content.
Well, I would hate that. I would hate that to be the case because it's kind of like, you go to one of those WWE shows now, one of those Raws or SmackDowns, and you sit there and they show old clips of how it used to be, and it makes you feel like, damn, I feel like a sucker. I just spent $60 for a ticket to this show, and it sucks. I mean, there are no Stone Cold Steve Austins or Rocks here. You know what I mean? So I don't know. If they would have put it like this, if they want to sell more, pay-per-views, and they want to, piss off the universe, if they think that's about to go, I guess time will tell because we're going to find out those buy rates sooner or later, anyways.
Yep, and it'll definitely be interesting. And of course, the launch of the network is the 24th, and it seems I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it doesn't seem like to be the emphasis anymore on pay-per-view. Obviously, WrestleMania is the biggest pay-per-view. We're seeing, I've heard like Comcast now is upset with WWE because they're moving the pay-per-views to the network. And, of course, that could potentially be less revenue for the cable. In fact, I'm sure it will be. If you're willing to pay $60 for a 6-month subscription and you can get the pay-per-views included, I mean, you're not going to order these $44.95, $54.95 on HD, and so, but it's an interesting business strategy to just kind of totally upset the fans to the point where, give me the network, Frank. I got to have this network right now because I just can't take what's going on. I want to see Stone Cold, and I want to see The Rock, and I want to see DX, and I want to see NWO, and I want to see ECW. But I guess before we get too much into the network discussion, we talked a lot about the network. Talk about Royal Rumble, the matches I didn't see. Talk about, obviously we had more nostalgia with the New Age Outlaws winning the WWE Championship, and talk about Big Show Lesnar and your thoughts on the undercard last night for the Royal Rumble.
Right. Well, obviously the Royal Rumble kicked off on the pre-show last night, which was the Rhodes brothers, Goldust and Cody Rhodes, defending the WWE Tag Team titles against the New Age Outlaws. And surprisingly, not to me, but the New Age Outlaws won the tag team straps. And this, to me, sets up the dissension that we're going to see going into Mania between Goldust and Cody Rhodes. I guess they're finally going to get that WrestleMania match that they've always wanted. So that's setting up for that. First match of the night was Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt. That was a really, really good match. I wouldn't call it great, but it was good. It was a nice, battle between the two. They told a great story last night, and Bray Wyatt came out the victor in that match. And that wouldn't be the last time that we would see the Wyatt family, and I'll get to that in a minute. Next match, I believe, was Brock Lesnar versus Big Slow. And, man, you talk about some vicious chair shots. I mean, wow. I mean, this is supposed to be PG, but this guy was beating him like you would beat somebody up in the streets. This is just how this thing came about. And, I mean, wow. I mean, Brock Lesnar just literally destroyed Big Show with this steel chair. Just beat him like a dog, and he just. I mean, I have to be convinced at this point Big Show is taking time off or something because he got whooped with this steel chair, and Brock Lesnar got him up for the L5 and actually walked around with him and dropped him 1, 2, 3. Lesnar wins the match. Post-match attack, Lesnar once again beaten down. Big Show with the steel chair, broke it. Paul Heyman back. Usually Paul Heyman likes to stop the Big Show from stopping Lesnar from doing these type of things, but no, he stood back and watched Lesnar pretty much destroy Big Show. So it was crazy to see the Giant on the ground and cussing up his arm and holding his arms and walking to the back, and he had welts all over him. It was just crazy. It was unbelievable. I mean, you go to YouTube and see if you can find that clip. I'm pretty sure somebody posted it by now if you haven't seen that one. The next match after that was the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, Randy Orton versus John Cena. It was slow, like I said, slow, methodical, your basic Randy Orton match. It sucked. It was just bad. The finish came when John Cena was doing his finishing sequence. He was about to, I believe he probably was going to win. and the Wyatt family, their little music hit, and they were on the ring. Cena takes a hit at Bray Wyatt, knocks him down. Orton hits him, I believe, with the RKO, and hits him with the 1-2-3. And after that, Bray Wyatt comes in, gives Cena Sister Abigail, which sets up Bray Wyatt versus John Cena for Mania. And then I believe, Steve, but I think you said you saw the Rumble, so we can get into that one.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Rumble real quickly because I was getting a lot of feedback on the tag title match.
Yeah.
Some people were saying that it's bad for business. Nostalgia Act like the Outlaws, who, I mean, clearly both guys are at the end of the line, and really, BG James, Road Dogg had been basically retired, being an agent, and Billy Gunn's working sporadically on the independent circuit. He's been helping out, I guess, a little bit with developmental, but people were saying this is bad for business, and to me, Frank, it just illustrates the point that the tag titles don't really mean anything. I thought they were doing a little bit better, giving it to the Rhodes brothers, but I mean, in the end, the tag titles don't mean anything.
I don't think it's bad for business at all to give the belts to the New Age Outlaws. New Age Outlaws were an established tag team back in the 90s and early 2000s. They were one of the most successful tag teams of all time. And tell that to the people last night, and I believe they were in Pittsburgh. Tell that to them who gave the New Age Outlaws a huge pop when they won. Mm-hmm. So I don't really see the problem with it. It's just some tag belts, and I'm pretty sure that the Outlaws are going to be transitional champions to maybe the Usos or somebody like that. So what's the problem? People, we can't. Everybody can't have their cake and eat it too. There's always going to be a complaint about something, And I don't really see a problem with the Outlaws selling the straps. It doesn't really matter. Like you said, tag belts don't mean anything. I mean, there's been a huge emphasis lately on the tag team belts, but to get from point A to point B with the Rhodes brothers, you have to get the belts off of them, and then and then part B was the deal that happened in the Rumble match itself. So you have to get rid of the belt somewhere. And the Outlaws, perfect candidates. They're the established talent. They're the older talent. They're the veterans. They can make a new tag team. So I can see them dropping the belts at the Elimination Chamber match against the Usos or somebody like that, and then the Outlaws go off on their horses they rode in on.
I was going to say, I mean, they could easily, I could see them carrying the straps into WrestleMania. I don't know if you really want them on a WrestleMania card itself. I mean, they didn't put them on the Royal Rumble card itself. It was on the pre-show. But people got to remember, too, a lot of times for WrestleMania, they don't even have the tag title match on the pay-per-view. So, to a larger degree, the tag titles really don't mean much anyways. And boy, Frank, those are some of the ugliest tag titles I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't like them. They look like damn kidneys with straps.
Yeah,
they're
really bad.
I mean, I've seen some pretty bad looking belts, and I tell you, man, I thought that that TNA World Heavyweight belt was an ugly championship. I mean, it's that gold with the silver on top, which doesn't make no sense to me. But those tag team belts, they really take the cake on that one. They just. It just, I mean, why would they even go with that design? It's just, I don't get it.
And of course, I went to an establishment to watch the end of the pay-per-view. I really was not into the undercard. I was obviously following along at Gerweck.net, getting all the results, and Michael Ribba does a great job at explaining what's going on. So it's like, reading his recaps is like I was actually watching the show. So I kind of knew what was going on with the undercard, and then I got to the establishment, and the fans in this establishment were just booing the heck out of the Cena Orton match, and of course that's what it was in Pittsburgh as well. And I don't know, Frank, it's been a long time. I mean, we see, this is boring chance, but it's been a long time. I really can't remember the last time I remember this is awful.
I never heard of this is awful chance.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to think. I mean, I've heard, this is boring. That's like common, when people are upset with the match, but this is awful.
Yeah, I've never heard it. Wow. That is one that I couldn't believe. It's one of those ones where your jaw drops because this is live television and this is for the WWE Championship, and the fans are chanting, "This is awful," and I'm like, whoa. You can't, you got people who this is their first Royal Rumble pay-per-view match or pay-per-view, and then they like, what the hell? And that's just that's the reaction was last night. It was like, wow, the WWE had some really big problems last night with that match. And it was I'm telling you, Steve, it was only that match. When you have a match, man, when you got Randy Orton versus John Cena, and you got the fans chanting, "We want divas." That says a lot. And then Randy Orton does that. Randy Orton does that little pose he does. He did that while they were chanting, "We want divas," and it's like, I don't get it, man. And then the thing that really gets under Orton now is if they're chanting Randy Savage at him. So that was the one, Randy Savage, and then they were saying, "You both suck," at Cena and Orton, and telling them you can't wrestle at Randy Orton, and then Daniel Bryan chants all through the match.
Yep. And
I think they were chanting Jerry Lawler. They might have been doing that. It kind of reminded me, it was a little toned down, but it kind of reminded me of the crowd after Mania. I mean, hell, they were fandangling last night. We haven't seen that in how long? But they were doing it last night in Pittsburgh.
There was rumors that there was a standby match. AJ Lee was going to defend the Divas Championship, but that says something when people would rather see the Divas match, the Divas Championship match with AJ Lee over Cena and Orton, who are supposedly the two biggest stars in your company.
You know,
I mean, if you're not going to give Daniel Bryan the rub, I mean, if you're the WWE brass, don't you believe that Cena and Orton are your top two stars?
You know what, man?
I guess you throw CM Punk in there too, but I mean, okay, two of your biggest stars.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't. You know, there's a huge denial in the WWE as far as who's to blame for what. A lot of people say that back during the summer, Daniel Bryan was the reason why the ratings were down, and it was the reason why the buy rates were down. But doesn't it take two to tango in these type of situations? I mean, that SummerSlam main event was headlined between John Cena and Daniel Bryan. Now, what was the excuse of why the pay-per-view numbers were down before that SummerSlam? Could it possibly be John Cena? Could it possibly be the universe saying, we're sick and tired of Cena's stale act and he's just not believable? Could it be people tired of Randy Orton? Could it have been people who were sick and tired of Sheamus? No new concept. People sick and tired of Punk. What is it? So I believe that right there last night was a very telling sign of what's wrong with WWE. Randy Orton as a champion is what's wrong. He's like I say, he's not exactly like the business on fire.
And I thought, I was at an establishment. People were asking me, well, Daniel Bryan's going to be in the Royal Rumble, right? And I fully expected him to be one of the surprise. And I know he wasn't announced, and he did say ahead of time he was not going to be in the Royal Rumble. But I mean, look at Jericho. He says he's never going to show up, and he always shows up. So you would have thought at least they would have put Daniel Bryan in the Royal Rumble. And I was just shocked that, when it got to number 30, and I was trying to think, who's left, and all of a sudden here's Rey Mysterio number 30, and I thought, wow, Daniel Bryan is not in this match. And I know Mick Foley said the exact same thing. Daniel Bryan is not in this match? How can the most over, as I said before, the most over babyface they have in the company not be in this match? And I guess maybe they didn't want him in the match so that he wouldn't have to lose, because he would have lost, twice in the night? But I don't think people don't care if he loses because he's so over. I mean, that's just the mentality he has right now. Is he is clearly the top babyface. And so we go into the Royal Rumble. It starts with CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, and this is a great way to start this match off. Two solid workers. I thought too, Frank, going into this, they kept the Shield pretty strong. They went together. They worked well together. They worked so well together that they stayed in the match for a long. I think it was one sequence where it was CM Punk out there with the Shield, if I remember right. I thought they made the Shield look really good, but obviously last night, Frank, the emphasis was on Roman Reigns, and I don't know when he's going to be the breakout star and what they do with Roman Reigns, say, going into WrestleMania. And we'll get into the rumored WrestleMania matches coming up. But last night, I really thought, even though Batista was the winner, with Daniel Bryan not in the match last night, they really made a star with Roman. I believe he eliminated 12 guys last night, which was a Royal Rumble record. He was in the match for a long stretch. And I thought last night, Frank, if nothing else, even if you were not happy with the result, you were not happy with maybe the lack of surprise entrance, that last night he had to be impressed with Roman Reigns, and clearly he's a star on the brink in WWE.
Yeah, I was very, very happy with that aspect, that they basically, like you just said, made a star out of Reigns in one night and solidified him as a future babyface. There is no turning back now with Roman Reigns, and I hope to see more of this tonight on Monday Night Raw. But yeah, Reigns had it. I think that people didn't get what they wanted with Daniel Bryan. I mean, hell, when Rey Mysterio came out there as number 30, the place they booed. I mean,
right.
Wow. They booed him, and they were happy when he was out of there. I was happy when he was out there. I didn't want to see Mysterio out there. Everybody wanted to see Daniel Bryan. This is not 1986, man. Nobody wanted to see Rey Mysterio. The only time I want to see Mysterio was getting thrown into a trailer like a dart by Nash. And even Nash was out there last night. So,
that's right.
So, I mean, and I thought Nash did pretty good. But to me last night, man, a Royal Rumble really, to me, lacked a lot of star power. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the guys on the roster not over. I mean, you could tell by the reaction last night for guys like the Usos.
Right.
It was very lukewarm. I mean, Cody Rhodes had a good reaction when he came out. Goldust had a good pop when he came out. But and Nash Nash had a good reaction when he came out. But the other guys was very lukewarm. I will say one guy that I saw last night because I don't really follow NXT, Alexander Rusev.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is gonna be a monster there. I mean, I liked his whole deal, his whole look. I could really see him having some really stiff matches with like a Biggie Langston. So
here's the problem I had with Rusev debuting, and I thought he did well, and I agree with you. I think he's definitely has the potential. Is what are the rules for entering the Royal Rumble? Why would a guy who was on NXT get in the Royal Rumble over guys that are on the roster? Let's say, I know last night Evan Bourne was tweeting, and they don't have any spots for him. I don't know if because I guess he's back. I mean, he's been ready to go. Christian came to mind. I know he's been injured, but he's like on the brink of returning. Why would that spot go to Rusev instead of somebody on the roster who deserves that spot more than Rusev? And no disrespect to him, but they never really explain how certain guys get in and certain guys don't get in. And I just think from a storyline perspective, how did Rusev get in that match, and somebody that's already on the card, or I should say on the roster, how did they not get that spot last night?
Very simple. February 27th is the NXT special on the network. So you have Emma on Raw in the crowd from NXT, and also you have Rusev on, the number one show besides Mania of the whole year, the Royal Rumble. So, I kind of see the connection there as far as they want to get people talking about the NXT special. But I do understand what you mean, though. I don't understand why WWE just didn't go with a 40-man, Royal Rumble like they did in 2011.
I kind of think that's too many, because the problem with even 30 is there's going to be so many guys in this match that have like zero chance of winning. I mean, you mentioned the Usos. I was thinking even like Swagger and Cesario. I mean, both are good talents, but they have no chance winning this Royal Rumble.
Oh man, did you see the Cesaro swing last night on Seth Rollins? My God, that was this why this guy is not a babyface. I'm not understanding it. That I mean him and I don't even like Jack Swagger. I don't care for him, but they both got pretty good babyface reactions last night.
Or the Great Khali. I mean, why is the Great Khali in this match?
I don't even know why did you have to bring him up?
Well, I mean, I'm just talking. You said something like 40 man. It's like they can't even get 30 man. I think when I saw that the 30 guys they revealed last night really speaks to the point that they don't have a lot of depth on the roster. They have a lot of guys they push for a while, then they don't push, and then they push, and then they don't push. I mean, like the Miz. I mean, Miz should be in the match because Miz is a former world champion, but nobody believes the Miz is going to win this match.
No, and it's like, the Miz, you look at the Miz, you look at Kofi Kingston, you look at Kane, R-Truth. I didn't think for one second last night that Punk was going to win that match.
No, I didn't either. I didn't either.
He stayed there, but I didn't think for one second he was going to win. And then on top of that too, there's just a lot of, like you said, there's just not a lot of depth to the roster. So
that's why I would like to see more surprises. At least, you don't expect a surprise guy like a Kevin Nash to win, but I'd rather see Kevin Nash in the ring versus, they last night they threw JBL in there for what, 10 seconds?
Right. Well, that was pretty cool.
And we thought maybe Jake the Snake would be in this match. And
he threw it up when he made his comments.
But I mean, there were so many guys that they could have brought back Jericho for a night. He was supposed to be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Where was RVD?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys, at least just for the night, to bring back. I mean, versus, some of the guys like, no disrespect, Luke Harper. Did anybody think Luke Harper was going to win the match?
You know what, man? I don't really, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, I don't really care for them. They're just
I don't either, really. I mean, and they're in this match, and I mean, they take up 3 spots, or actually they took 2 spots because Bray wasn't in the match, but then you had the Shield. That was 3 spots. And Fandango, I mean, did anybody think Fandango was going to win?
No.
So, again, Rey Mysterio's in there. I mean, he should be in there, but, again, nobody believes he's going to win.
No.
So it just shows you the lack of depth. And I think the last time we were talking about this, I thought could be a wild open Royal Rumble in this fact that they could have 4, 5, 6, 7 guys as possibilities. But then it's like as soon as you get Batista in there, he's the clear favorite. You're not going to put Daniel Bryan in the match. That takes out one of your favorites right off the top. CM Punk was number 1. He didn't figure CM Punk was going to headline WrestleMania again. So all of a sudden, it's like you're reading to that second tier. I mean, every time the Usos came out, the building's like, and no disrespect, I like the Usos, but they have no chance to win the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Bring back the Honky Tonk Man. What the hell?
Where was BDP?
Yeah, I mean, somebody. Hacksaw Duggan, I guess he has health issues, but I mean, he was there at the show last night. Throw Ric Flair in there as a surprise. Let him go in there and go woo and chops, and that's going to be more entertaining than some of the guys they threw in that Royal Rumble last night.
Yeah, well, you know what, man? Last time Ric Flair did anything on the big shows, somebody got forced to retirement. So I don't know if that would be a good idea.
But you understand my point. I mean,
I get your point. But there's just no. That's why I said earlier. There was no star power in that match. I mean, the only
real surprise was Kevin Nash.
That's right. Yeah, and I was expecting Jericho. I was expecting RVD. I was expecting Christian. When Sheamus came out, who gave a damn?
Yeah.
I
mean, there's speculation all week about this is a possible name. They may have reached out to this guy, Brutus Beefcake. Where's he? I mean, somebody that's going to be more entertaining for a minute or 2 minutes in the Royal Rumble. I mean, Kevin Nash didn't last for very long. They could have brought out somebody from the past to do the same spot. I mean, they could have put the Outlaws in the in the Royal Rumble. That would have been more entertaining because people didn't see them they were on the undercard, but they weren't on the main show. So, why not put them on the main show then?
Well, they could
Why not?
They could have put in Jake the Snake Roberts. But
sure.
I think, I texted you earlier in the week, or I think it was last week or something, whatever it was, that he screwed himself on that one when he made those comments about the Warrior going to the Hall of Fame. I really do believe that that's when they said, okay, we're not going to deal with this guy because obviously he's trying to tell us that our decision to do business with the Warrior is not good for business. So what is not good for business is putting him in the Rumble. And I think I texted you. I said I think that DDP needs to talk to Jake real fast.
And he did.
And it was too late.
Yeah, probably too late. But I was I was at this establishment and people are saying, they're throwing all kinds of possible names, and somebody said, "Is AJ Styles going to come out?" And I said, I actually think AJ Styles worked an independent show in Canada somewhere at the same time, so I didn't expect him to show up. People are like, Ultimate Warrior, he's rumored to be at a match at WrestleMania. Maybe he'll show up. And I said, well, I guess it's possible, but I don't see it. And then the other name was, of course, the man they call Sting. And I said,
that would have been cool.
That would have been a good pop, but I think if they're bringing back Sting, it's probably a one-time deal, more than likely, at WrestleMania. I could be wrong, but I mean, it just spoke to bring back somebody that's entertaining. I mean, the numbers that come up, and Jay and Uso, and then of course that dumb spot with JBL, which I guess they've done that before with Lawler getting in, be eliminated right away. I mean, it's a spot they do with the announcers now, I guess, but I don't know. There just was so many El Torino.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Sin Cara to come out again.
Yeah.
In some form, I mean, Doink the Clown. I don't know. I just thought the star power was.
There was
very
on that
last night. Yeah.
When the porno music hit, the place went crazy, and that says a lot. That in 2014, that music still gets the reaction it got back in '96. So that shows you where we're at right now in the business. And it would have been cool from a nostalgia standpoint. I mean, a Warrior in there, that would have been cool. Because something, man, one of the big problems today with wrestling is that there are no gimmicks anymore. And that's the thing that, I mean, a lot of people, all these guys that claim, the Warrior sucked and all this other. Listen, Warrior was a huge draw back in the day, and they've said this before, because nobody was doing what he was doing, with the tassels and the fringes and the face paint. I mean, I wish we would see characters like that today. We don't see characters. That's why you have your Randy Ortons, and you got your John Cena's, and you got your CM Punks. I mean, what exactly is Punk supposed to be? What's the
Jack Swagger?
Jack Swagger sounds like a drink. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what is he supposed to do? What is the deal? I don't get it. I mean, look at all the stars you had back in the day, man. You had the model Rick Martel, Jake the Snake Roberts, Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Nature Boy Ric Flair. Crush.
Yeah,
Smash,
even using the nicknames.
Yeah.
There's no nicknames anymore. They're just John Cena, Randy Orton.
Right.
That's it. I mean, to a larger degree, they gave the name Daniel Bryan as just a generic name, figuring he'll never get over either.
Right. And he did.
I mean, that's about as plain of a name as you can think of, Daniel Bryan. I mean, doesn't flow nothing. It's a nothing name.
Lazy.
And you still got over it. So,
yeah.
I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
No groups, no tag teams, no gimmicks. I mean, this is where we are in 2014.
Yeah. I mean, here's another one for you, Rocky Maivia.
Yeah.
but the point is that there is no gimmicks. That's why Warrior is cool. Sting is the last gimmick, besides the Undertaker.
Yep.
Those are the last two. You know.
Yep.
And that's why. I mean, I give the Usos credit, man, for trying to change up the look. It got to be like the Samoa SWAT team. You know what I'm saying? But.
Yeah. Oh, I like the Usos, but in this match, they mean nothing, and nobody pops for them. It's nothing.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying you're going to get 30 pops, because I mean I agree. The most exciting thing is that seeing that clock count down, because you don't know who's coming out next. But you can't get 30 pops, but they could have done better with the 30 guys they assembled last night. And I don't know. Even given that you're going back to that NXT guy debuting, you're like, well, they're bringing the NXT show to the network. I think they're bringing him up. I think they're bringing Emma up as well. It's just I guess I don't have a problem with what they did. It's just hard for me to explain why he gets that spot and somebody else on the roster who's more deserving of that spot doesn't get that spot.
Well,
to me. If wrestling is real, I know it's not real, but I mean, tomorrow, if you're Christian or you're Evan Bourne and you're going out on TV and saying they gave my spot to Rusev, wouldn't you be upset?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, the last time I saw Evan Bourne, he wasn't exactly tearing it up.
No, but he is a former tag team champion.
He's a former tag team champion, but here's the deal, though, man. It's like you gotta make new stars. Is that exactly like? I mean, it's not exactly like he was over like Nova. You know what I'm saying?
No, but he's been gone for a while. I thought he could have got a good pop last night.
Yeah, he probably could have, but I mean, if you want to put it like that, okay. Look at the Royal Rumble match last night. You could take out Khali. There's no reason for Khali to be out there. I mean, I was like,
other than he's a world champion, right?
Yeah, he's going to take all day to get to the ring. So there was no point in even having him in there. And the JBL spot, you could have took that out. That could have been another spot.
Total waste.
I can't.
I mean, that's why they probably the day of the show they're figuring out who the 30 guys are in there, and they're like, okay, who can we throw in here?
Yeah. We just
don't have depth here anymore. And it's been like that way for a long time. I mean, it's not like when the Royal Rumble of 88, 89, 90, some of those when they had, Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart and Ric Flair, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Hacksaw Duggan, Roddy Piper. I mean, the list was going. I mean, back in those days when those were Royal Rumbles, I mean, it was really wide open. And now
you just named the whole 92 Royal Rumble right there.
I mean, you come in 2014. The roster is just so weak, and I know some people really like this roster and they'll put it over. But I mean, it's hard. You can't even compare them. They're not even on the same level. I mean, even going back to the Attitude Era, that type of roster versus what you have today. And I didn't think it was a bad. I didn't think it was a bad Royal Rumble overall. It wasn't the most exciting Royal Rumble I've seen. They did something good with Roman Reigns, which was good to see. I didn't need to see Batista win. I don't think it really serves any point to him winning. Clearly, the guy that everybody wanted to see was Daniel Bryan. The final four was CM Punk, Batista, Reigns, and Sheamus. And we had the corporate Kane. That was probably another spot probably wasted was the corporate Kane came out. Right. I think 4 or 5. He came out early, and then he was eliminated. And then he came out at the end and eliminated Punk. So the final 3 was Batista, Reigns, and Sheamus, and of course, then came down to Batista and Reigns. But Reigns, again, a solid job. Again, that's the thing I'm probably going to remember most about this Royal Rumble match was the strong performance that he put in. I thought CM Punk worked really hard too. He was there to the end, a warrior in this match. You talk about Ultimate Warrior, but I thought he was a warrior in this match. Worked real well. Kevin Nash, the one spot was the only thing that really was a surprise on the show. But again, when I look at it, analyze the match itself, it wasn't anything special. I don't know. I have no idea why you would not put Daniel Bryan in the match. And that was the reaction I was getting in this establishment I was at was that was it. I mean, when Rey Mysterio was 30 and you're realizing Daniel Bryan's not in this match, it was just mind-boggling. And And like I said, again, Frank, I don't think it was a weak Royal Rumble, but certainly, I mean, it was like a middle of the pack. It was nothing special. A year from now, it's nothing that I'm going to really remember other than maybe Roman Reigns' performance is something they can build on. But again, I didn't think it was anything special.
No. As a matter of fact, when it was over, I was thinking in my head about the Royal Rumble pay-per-views of the past. I was like, which Royal Rumble match really stood out? And which one is your all-time favorite? And I have to go back to the '92 Royal Rumble, as you were naming off all those guys a little while ago.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite Rumble match of all time, just because of the amount of star power you had in there. You had Piper, you had Boss Man, you had the Bulldog, $1 Million Man, Macho Man, Jake the Snake, Sid, Justice, Hogan, all these guys. Last night, who did we have last night? We had Swagger, you had
Fandango.
You had the Usos. You had Kobe Kingston doing crazy spots in the Rumble, but never winning it.
Right.
It's the same. I mean, Kofi to the Rumble match is kind of what Shelton Benjamin was to Money in the Bank. Mm-hmm. You knew that Shelton Benjamin was going to do some crazy stuff in the match, but he wasn't going to win the match. And that's what's going on with Kofi Kingston now. Kingston does these crazy, exactly. Yep. Kingston does these crazy spots in the Rumble match where his feet never hits the floor, but he doesn't have no chance in hell of winning it.
No chance.
And that's it really sucks, And right now, if I had to put put it down on the bottom line as far as the whole pay-per-view, I would have to really go with a C. I'm not going to give it a
for the show
C.
itself or just the Rumble.
Just the show itself. I'm going to have to give it a C.
Okay.
Because Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan worked hard last night. I thought Cena worked hard last night. So, and I got to give Big Show his props for taking all those share shots. But the Rumble match itself, man, outside of the Kevin Nash porno music spot, and Roman Reigns with the spear and the Superman punch, I got to give that one a D.
So what did you think the best match was last night?
Hands down was Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan.
Yep, that's what's winning our poll easily. It's going to easily be the best match on the show, and
absolutely,
it was an opening match, and again, you didn't have Daniel Bryan in the Royal Rumble, and I said that was the reaction I got. When I was at the local watering hole was, how can you not have Daniel Bryan in the match? And then, when it came down to Batista, Roman Reigns, everybody's like, yeah, give it to Reigns. Yeah, this is something fresh, something new.
Yeah.
And then, Batista won. So it was.
I was just waiting when I saw this happen last night, man, and I'm like, when the fans were behind Roman Reigns, and I mean, he was feeling it. He was. That had to give the guy goosebumps last night because it gave me goosebumps sitting in my living room watching it. It's like, okay, we could do something here with Reigns. You can instantly make this guy, and it would be believable to do it. But no, they gave us the same tired, retread Batista out there looking like he just got out the shower, winning the Royal Rumble. And I'm waiting for the guy I'm waiting for it to be over, and I'm just like, dude, please just point at the damn sign already, so I can get up off the couch. So he pointed at the sign, the pyro went off, and then I texted you, and I said, this really sucks. This was this was bad. Roman Reigns was the most over guy in that match. He should have won the Rumble. If they weren't good with Daniel Bryan, they could have did it with Reigns. But no, we got.
You were talking too of like memorable Royal Rumbles. The one that always sticks out to me, and I don't know if it's my favorite, but just the spot I always remember was, I don't remember the years, but the year Steve Austin was in it, and he's waiting for the next guy to come out.
97.
And then he eliminates the guy, and then he's looking at his watch. It's like he's waiting for the next guy to come out. Then he whips it. I mean, that was like one of the most memorable Royal Rumbles of all time, and maybe it wasn't the best one, but it certainly was the most memorable. That spot of, Austin was so over. He was the man, and he just was whooping everybody's ass, and he was just waiting for the next guy to come out so he could whip him over the top rope.
Yeah, and I remember that spot
Something
too.
very memorable.
It was cool because it led into if you remember, I know which one you're talking about too. It was '97 Royal Rumble from the Alamo Dome, and that pay-per-view was headlined by Sid versus Psycho Sid versus Shawn Michaels for WWE Championship. But if you remember at the end of that Rumble, Bret Hart actually threw Austin out, and Austin hit the floor, and then he got back in the ring and took out he eliminated Vader and and Bret Hart, and it was just so cool because that led to that fatal 4-way pay-per-view they did that year. To determine the number one contender, I believe, for the championship. So that was cool. That's the type of stuff that they don't do now.
Right.
You know, those are those memorable moments, and what makes you like, okay, I'm glad I saw that.
Well, I guess it was memorable in that they gave Roman Reigns 12 eliminations, so he has a record now, which I think that's pretty cool. I mean, you look at all the stats of Royal Rumble, and one thing I also wanted to mention, too, about Roman Reigns, I don't know if people saw the article on from my site that was actually a tidbit in the Observer, but his brother, Matt, who was the former Rosie, is the early stages of congenitive heart failure. He had to remove like 62 pounds of fluid from him, and they're going to try to eliminate more fluid as well. So say a little prayer for this guy. I mean, I think he's like 43 years old if I remember right, and he is the brother of Roman Reigns, and everybody remembers Rosie from back in the day with Jamal and Rosie, and you know, we saw what happened with Umaga. I'm always say Umanga, you know, from Regal's days. But say a little prayer for this guy. This is a very serious situation right now.
That sucks. You know, that's horrible. Hopefully he gets better. You know, that's a bummer. That's a buzz killer.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's sad. But so just say a little prayer for him. You know, as we're talking about all the positives. I just wanted to note that because maybe one that kind of flew under the radar to some people, and I didn't. I remember he after WWF or WWE days, he went over to All Japan, wrestled for a while, and had a good run there for a little while as Rose-E. I think it was R-O and then a Z, like Rose-E.
Yeah.
In All Japan. So, but we wish him the best in recovery there. And obviously, I'm sure wherever he was, you know, rooting on his brother last night as he put in a strong performance. I want to talk kind of tough to change gears on that note, but let's talk a little bit about what we kind of see now for WrestleMania. Obviously, this is WrestleMania season, and of course, the rumored matches. And again, Frank, the rumored matches until they're officially announced. But at least on paper, what we're seeing right now is you would think Batista, winning the Royal Rumble, will face Randy Orton for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. I guess that's a headline match. You want to call it that. Brock Lesnar at this point is scheduled to go against The Undertaker. Now, this one is a very fluid situation in that, I guess, Frank, if Sting does sign, they could throw Sting in this match. But if they don't, and it is Lesnar versus Undertaker, that's still a match that would pique my interest. Yeah,
that's going to be I'm already probably going to go. That could be match of the year candidate right there before it even happens. Because, you know, Taker's going to put on a strong performance. You know, Lesnar is going to put on a strong performance. And Lesnar is a pretty good wrestler, a pretty good grappler. So he could be the guy that you really believe can end the streak because he's a monster. And he really solidified that. And they're going to be playing this video from last night of him with those chair shots and just destroying the Big Show. They're going to be playing this for a while, going up into Mania. So if it is Lesnar versus Taker, hey man, I'm all on board for that. I mean, the deal with Sting is that until I hear that Sting has signed, has reached a either verbal commitment or has signed a contract.
No, I think it's got to be signed.
Yeah, yeah.
This guy, I think it's got to be on paper.
Yeah, until I hear that he signed something that says, you know, it can even be a deal memo until I hear that he signed something, my opinion is the guy's still working with TNA. And he's still at TNA.
Sad. That's sad.
It is sad. I hope to be wrong. I hope to be like everybody. I hope to be wrong. But here's the problem with that. A lot of wrestling fans are losing their interest in seeing Sting versus Undertaker. Every year that Sting doesn't go to WWE and he stays with the fledgling TNA brand, he once again, he's killing more of his legacy, and the fans just don't give a crap anymore about Sting versus Taker. And that's kind of how it's started. That's kind of what's going on with me at this point. I don't really give a damn too much more about seeing it because either the guy is going to be smart and sign a deal, or he's going to stay with TNA and wrestle Magnus again and try to pop a rating.
Well, I think you brought up a good point. We're talking offline. I mean, we've heard the stories of Kurt Angle and Christian when they're in TNA, and people see them in the airport and say, you know, when are you guys coming back to wrestling? And we've not. If you don't follow TNA, if you take TNA out of the equation, a lot of wrestling fans have not seen this guy since 2001, going back to March 2001 of the final Nitro where he wrestled Ric Flair. So he's really, even if you count TNA, I mean, you know, we're on the big stage. I mean, he has been out of the limelight for a long time, and you know, we heard a concept idea, the man they call Sting.
Right.
I do think it would definitely benefit them to really build him up on television. If he's going to come in and he's going to do something, say at WrestleMania, that they do have some time to build him up again, because like you said, he's definitely been damaged. He's damaged his legacy by being part of TNA, and it's no fault of his, but you know, going back to that house show in Tennessee where there's 300, 400 fans there, so they got time. Don't get me wrong, but they really got to kind of bring him up and catch up people and his great matches and the great Muta matches, the Ric Flair matches, the Lex Luger matches, and catch everybody up on, you know, what a great wrestler he was. And obviously, even going back to now that you got the Ultimate Warrior coming in, going back to his days as a tag team with the Ultimate Warrior, you know, years ago with Bill Watts in those days. So I agree. You know, his luster's a little bit off, but I do think, Frank, being that he is Sting and he's one of the biggest names still in wrestling, that they could salvage him, and I do think he could mean something at WrestleMania. Yeah,
I definitely believe that the man called Sting would be a great story. I mean, like we were talking offline, that's a DVD title right there to explain just this whole guy's career, and also, you know, because Warrior right now, Ultimate Warrior is in the limelight right now. You can talk about how he used to be partners with the Warrior, and maybe get Warrior to talk on a DVD about Sting, which would be cool. And you know, I mean, you know, Sting has to realize when he walked into that junior high school when he did that show, and I'm not sure it'll be funny or anything like that, but it's over. You look at where you come, and it's like, man, I'm Sting. I'm relegated to this.
This is how I want to end my career, my great career.
I want to end
in
my
a middle
career
school,
in
300 fans.
School. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, is this really what I want to be, or do I want to go to New York in front of WrestleMania 30, in front of the WWE universe, and this machine, the WWE? They have all this great stuff going on. The network is about to launch, and this is all my matches and the merchandise that could happen. I mean, I could be a bigger star than I ever was in the Turner organization.
It's going to be interesting, but yeah, I'm with you, Frank, until he signs the paper.
Yep.
I mean, we've talked about this for how many years now?
Shoot. So since 2000? I mean, I've been hearing about this since 2002. That's all I've been hearing about this. And we're at 14 now, and Sting's a lot older now, and it's either going to get done or it's not, you know. And I want to get it done while Sting still has a chance to go out there and actually do something. I don't want to see Sting sign with the company when he's 60 years old. Oh, now Sting's going to come over. Well, oh, he's not going to be able to pass the physical like Hogan. So what do we do with Sting at this point? You know, I don't want that. I want Sting to come out there and take his rightful place where he belongs. You know, I'm pretty sure Flair and Hogan and all these guys have tried to convince this guy to go to WWE for a long time. But for some reason, I don't know, he just has loyalty to that TNA. Well, you know what? Even the Jarretts don't have loyalty to that brand.
That's right.
So what are you sticking around for? You know,
maybe the universe can start the Go Sting Go or Come Sting Come or something.
Well, we want Sting.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
what they have to do. I mean, you hear all these. I mean, I've never heard the chant of "This is awful."
Yeah.
So we want Sting or something. You know, let the universe.
I saw a sign in the crowd a couple weeks ago. It was a green and black sign that had "We want Sting," had the WWE logos for the W's. That said, "We want Sting," and we do. We want Sting. The real Sting fans want Sting, not 200 or 300 people. I mean, you know, I can't even look at the TNA product right now, man, because it's so bad. You know, and it's just knowing all the financial problems. And I mean, I look at the Genesis, the pay-per-view they did, part 1 and part 2 on Spike, and it was just bad to watch because the crowd it was the second show they did. The crowd was so dead, man. I mean, it was so dead, and the building was pretty much empty.
Free pay-per-view, you mean?
Yeah, they're
free pay-per-view.
They're free per-views, yeah.
Yeah. I know. I can't quite grasp how a pay-per-view can be free. I mean, the idea of a pay-per-view is you're paying for that view.
Right.
It is on television for free, but
you are paying with it. See, you're paying with it with your life that you can't get back when it's done.
2 hours of your life gone.
Exactly.
You can't recoup it. And you know, Frank, with Sting in TNA, there's just no matches in TNA that means anything to Sting. I mean,
no.
The way the roster is now, I mean, he's wrestled about everybody that means anything in TNA, and the only thing that would mean anything to Sting fans now is for him to go to WWE, to go on the big stage, to take on Undertaker or somebody of that ilk, and it's something we finally. I mean, even if you don't do Undertaker, there's a lot of matches Sting's never wrestled with the current crop of WWE stars. You know?
You can put Sting in there. You can take Sting and put him in there with a John Cena.
Right.
You know, you can put him in there with a Randy Orton.
Right.
You can put him in there
Daniel
with
Bryan.
a Daniel Bryan or a CM Punk or a Kane. It can all be done. It's just a matter of, hey, Steve Borden, sign the dotted line. Let's get your signature on the paper. Let's do it. You know, let's stop procrastinating and let's just go ahead and get it done. Or do you want to go back and work in the Universal Studios soundstage for the rest of your career?
900 fans.
Not even.
That's right. They're reduced now, aren't they?
No, that's right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other rumored matches we're hearing for WrestleMania, and again, it's rumored. You have Bray Wyatt against John Cena.
Right, and they set that up they kind of set that in motion last night at the Rumble. So that could be a very interesting story they're going to tell there. Bray Wyatt, from his, you know, where he came from Husky Harris. I mean, that guy last night was on some weird, crazy PCP-induced stuff he was on last night, man. It was unbelievable. This guy, he could be an actor. I'm telling you, in a horror film, he can do it. So he's great. I just want to see what the logic is going to be behind the story. And if Cena can not joke around, if Cena can be serious, this could be a hell of a program.
We're also hearing CM Punk versus Triple H.
It's time for Triple H to give Punk his heat back. Like I said, I'm not a Punk fan. I'm not a Punk fan simply because I think Punk has a big head. They call him the best in the world. Well, I don't see that. The best in the world is putting the asses in the seats and drawing pay-per-view buys. I haven't heard Punk do either one of those. So until I see it, I'm going to stand by what I'm saying. But either way it goes, Punk and Triple H had that little series they did. I believe it was in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, or 2011. So Punk needs his win back, and Punk very well could be on his way out of the company. You know, we're in the same situation we was in 2011, which was Punk's contract is coming up. And it just so happens that the pay-per-view that his contract falls on is going to be in Chicago. So it'll be very interesting the next couple of months involving CM Punk. But if Punk does go against Triple H at WrestleMania, Punk has to go over in that match. There's nothing, there's nothing there for Triple H to. I mean, there should be no reason Triple H is beating CM Punk.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but that was another. I mean, you just thought Triple H. Why wasn't he in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, he could have came out there and won that damn thing.
Well, I mean, even if he doesn't win, it's still another bigger star in that. I mean, we went over the list of guys who really didn't belong in there, and suddenly, well, why wasn't Triple H? Why didn't he throw himself in that match? That would have made that match even more, I guess, prestigious by having a guy of his ilk in that match.
Yeah, but what's the point of Triple H? I mean, I guess the deal would be, why would he be in a Royal Rumble match to begin with? He's a COO. That's
true. I guess, but then again, why is he going to wrestle CM Punk?
For power for the power of the company.
He could say, "I'm going to that Royal Rumble for one more time. Triple Nose is going to be the WWE champion."
Or you can go in there and say, or just a match with Punk. I'm going to go out there and wrestle CM Punk just to simply show the universe that I can still go out there and do it. I can go out there and kick Punk's ass. That's what it's going to be about. That's that whole thing is going to be about. It's him going out there proving that he can still go out there and do it. And
I got to hit somebody again with that sledgehammer.
I hope not, man. I would. I mean, that's the cool thing about seeing Triple H in his role he is now, is you don't have to see that sledgehammer.
And then, of course, we've already talked about Daniel Bryan and this is the one that I was hearing is more confirmed than some of the other matches, that right now the plan is Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus at WrestleMania, and that just seems so lackluster based on where Daniel Bryan is versus where Sheamus is just returning to the company.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that match at all. I'm not into that one at all. And it's nothing against Sheamus, but Sheamus has a long road to get to before he gets on Bryan's level. And I think him going in a match against Sheamus really takes him down the peg. A big time peg.
Definitely agree. And that was, again, the consensus last night when I was talking to people. I was telling them that, Daniel Bryan was not in the Royal Rumble because he's not penciled to be in the main event, and right now he's penciled to wrestle Sheamus. So, I mean, that's the reality right now. And as I said, even though all these matches are rumored, nothing's really official yet. That's the one I've heard is most likely to take place. I mean, they did set up last night a little bit with Wyatt and Cena, but right now, I was told that was probably one of the stronger matches they have penciled in. So, but again, universe talks. Maybe they change their mind. We'll see. And then the other match, Frank, that we've heard, and I don't know. I'd be surprised if this one actually happens. Would be the Ultimate Warrior returning. Of course, he's going to go in the Hall of Fame this year. Ultimate Warrior versus Ryback, and this may be rumored because I think they did reach out to Bill Goldberg, and I don't think he was interested at this time to do this match. So I don't know. Warrior versus Ryback, Frank.
Steve, honestly, it couldn't hurt. It really couldn't hurt. Warrior, Ryback, I mean...
Based on the card is so weak.
Based on the weak card, hell. I mean, it's going to take him a little bit longer. He's going to be pooped out a little bit faster. But who wouldn't mark out in the Warrior one more time? So that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, Ryback is a dead brand at this point. So who cares? I don't really care. And if they couldn't get Goldberg, whatever. I mean, Goldberg has just come to me as a guy who just really doesn't want to do business. And he just, I don't know. Maybe Goldberg will be at WrestleMania next year. Who knows?
Again, though, I think with Goldberg, as the years go by, and too, that he loses his luster as well. It's like Sting.
Exactly. But the difference between the two is that, I mean, he wasn't exactly involved in the project, the WWE did release a Goldberg DVD a few months ago.
True.
So he is still out there. And the one thing that you do hear on WWE TV that you don't hear, and you heard it last night at the Rumble, you hear Goldberg chants. You don't hear Sting chants. There is nobody chanting "We Want Sting." They're chanting Goldberg. So that's. I mean, this guy still is in the limelight. And there's a possibility, a Hall of Fame induction could come for Goldberg this year. Who knows?
I think you mentioned this in the last podcast. The time that really have done the Ryback Goldberg was when Ryback was kind of hot. For a time he was getting pushed and people were really into him. And now, as you said, he's lost all his luster too. So
well, I mean, it's pretty much like this, man. It goes back to manipulative forces behind the scenes at WWE. Here's a guy who was hot. Feed me more. He got John Cena to, pretty much get behind him, and had everybody chanting the "Feed me more" thing. Ryback was hot last year, and they killed him the night after Mania. It's when they set the whole deal up with him and Cena. So I don't know why they went ahead and did that, but it really killed it. And this guy has not recovered since. I mean, they did the deal with Paul Heyman, went nowhere. He was teaming up with Curtis Axel, went nowhere. There's another J Brown. I don't get it.
You hope they don't do this to Roman Reigns. He's got a little luster here. Don't push him back. I mean, I can think like Dolph Ziggler was hot for a time too, and look what they done with him.
Well,
I mean, he was in the Royal Rumble, and did anybody think Dolph Ziggler was going to win?
I did. I mean, but you heard the pop when he came out there. But did I think that he was going to win the Rumble? Absolutely not. No, I didn't.
No chance in hell again.
No chance in hell. It's like, I mean, it's kind of like this WCW kind of mentality right now at WWE, where if you get over, that's a bad thing.
I would think if Linda McMahon entered the Royal Rumble, she's got a better chance than Dolph Ziggler winning the Royal Rumble. I mean,
absolutely.
That's how fall the guy. I mean, the guy was. Again, I thought he was on the brink of being something special with the company, and you see where they went with him. Ryback was on the brink of being something special.
Here's the problem with Dolph Ziggler. The problem with Dolph Ziggler now is that Dolph Ziggler has had multiple concussions.
True.
He is now injury prone in their eyes. So we can't really take a chance on Ziggler like we did before. And
well, they just release him. I mean, what's the point of being? He's like nothing now.
Yeah, well, release him to go where? To TNA?
Well, I mean, if you like the guy, maybe you make him a trainer at NXT then. I mean, what's the point of him being out there then if you don't have any confidence in him really doing anything? You're not going to give him a high-profile match then because you're scared he's going to get hurt.
Well, that's the point for everybody on the roster. Why is Kofi Kingston still there? This guy has been hasn't had a world championship match. He hasn't done anything. They haven't never turned him heel. They haven't done anything with Kingston. That's the thing. When wrestlers aren't over, you do something to get them over. Look at back in the day. We were talking about these guys earlier, New Age Outlaws. They were doing jack back in the day. I mean, you had Rockabilly and you had the Road Dog Jesse James, or the Roadie Jesse James, or whatever the hell he was going by. You put these two together, and they change the tag team game. Just like that. You don't have that mentality anymore of those concepts. It's just everybody is going through the motions right now. That's all it is. The only person out there who's in any type of success is Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan can have success on a fluke. Just that yes chant. But he can also deliver in the ring. So that's why
another guy who I thought was hot in WWE was on the brink of being something, and now we're hearing these rumors, Frank, that he might show up in the other company is MVP. And I thought at one time he was kind of on the verge of being a big star in WWE, and they got him kind of hot, and then they kind of dropped the ball on him too. I don't know. Any thoughts on MVP going to TNA?
I've heard the rumors that he's supposed to be the supposed investor.
My gosh!
If
that's the case, we're in some trouble.
Right. I've heard that. I don't know where they're coming up with that. But I guess they got to have a foil to Dixie Carter's Dixieland faction. But yeah, MVP is a guy that WWE dropped the ball on. He could have been World Heavyweight Champion at one point. I think he could have pulled it off. But they obviously, I mean, you know your career is hitting the crap when you're teaming with Mark Henry. So, I mean, that's just the bottom line.
I know we've done very little discussion on TNA, but who would you think would be a good choice to be the mystery inventor? You know, this storyline, I don't know if somebody was on social media. I mean, if you're the majority investor, if you own majority interest in TNA, how can you not know who's buying part of the company?
Well, here's the deal. You would think so, right?
Right.
But
you own the company.
But tell me this though. How if TNA, and I was just thinking about this because I was watching the WWE 50 years DVD when they talked about when they went to the the New York Stock Exchange and they went public. TNA is not a public company, so therefore, how am I able to buy shares of TNA and become an investor and do all that?
If it's a private company, you can say no. I don't want this person in my company.
Right, but
if you're publicly traded, then obviously you can buy stock in the company.
Exactly, and I mean think about a lot of shares in there.
With Budweiser, I believe Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
There was enough foreign companies or foreign investors that basically bought the majority interest, even though they didn't want the Bush family to be sold to a foreign investor, and suddenly Anheuser-Busch is a foreign company now. I mean, it's totally different when it's a publicly traded company, but if it's a private company, like supposedly TNA is, they should know who's investing in the company, right?
That's exactly my point. So who would I who would I go in contact about buying stock in TNA and becoming an investor in TNA and basically being at the same level or above Dixie Carter? I mean, if she's running the company figuratively on TV, then she should know who this person is. She should know who this person was when the American Wolves, said that they got hired and here's the letter.
Well, maybe this guy's going to be a parody of whoever, if Corrigan or Keith would have, came in and bought the company or bought interest in the company. I mean, to me, if you're interested in TNA and you look at the books and you see the kind of situation they're in, I mean, if Toby Keith and Jeff Jarrett are serious about starting their own company, they've looked at the books and just decided I'd rather start my own company than buy TNA. And we talked about this the last time. It's sad reality. A company's been around for 12 years, has Spike TV, good TV slot, and yet at the end of the day, a real investor or a new investor would rather start his own company than buy TNA stock.
Yeah, and hopefully we get to find out exactly the true story behind that. I don't know if Jeff Jarrett will ever open his mouth, but I'd like to hear from him on exactly what happened. And it'll probably all go down one day in the rise and fall. Well, I can't really call it a rise and fall because they never lose anything. But I would like to hear the self-destruction of TNA.
I'm sure that'll be written at some point.
Yeah,
but,
and I'd like to hear Jarrett on there. I'd like to hear Russo and Bischoff and Hogan and all these different guys. And I just want to hear them talk about nothing but Dixie Carter and the Carter family.
As I say, I don't think the Carter family is going to like destruction of TNA book or DVD or something because it's not going to shine a very good light on the Carters.
Well, when you could have people in the wrestling business that know the business and also know the entertainment running that company, but you got Dixie Carter, who is the figurehead. She is handling all this and all that. I don't know if she's handling all the contracts per se. I believe that her mother is doing that, I believe.
Yep.
And this is the reason why a lot of guys have been let go. So if her mother is putting the foot down as far as this person isn't getting this money, yeah, I can see Sting leaving.
That's what I mean. What kind of president do you have if you don't have any control of the purse? If you don't control the checkbook, what power do you really have in that company?
Right.
You're like the figurehead, darling president, I guess.
Yep.
That's the sad reality, but I don't know. I just wanted to throw a quick TNA tidbit because we talked, almost all about WWE, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. Obviously, it's the road to WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania season, so we'll be hearing more and more rumors, I'm sure, pop up as we get ready for WrestleMania. But we've just done a 90-minute podcast, and this really reminded me, Frank, of those old Fillmore days with the hotline where we do a 90-minute report. We had 90 minutes on the hotline to do, and we would fill it up with current topics and reader, or I should say listener comments. People would leave us messages, and we would go in our mailboxes and listen to all the comments, and we would comment. So I'm going to throw it out there. If people want to hear us, talk about current topics, you can tweet me at Gerweck. I'm on there. I'm on Facebook. Everybody knows my email address is betweentheropes@hotmail.com. And after the last podcast, Frank, I was getting a couple of old-time listeners to the hotline say, hey, I know you're not going to bring the hotline back, but it was good to hear you and Frank D back together and talking about current topics. So, we'll throw it out there. If there's something out there you want us to discuss, we're just two passionate wrestling fans that have been very disgruntled over the years, but we're still, I guess, holding out that glimpse of hope, Frank, that at some point that WWE or TNA or some promotion out there gets hot again and we can talk about the new era. I mean, we talk about the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars and even the 1980s when wrestling was really hot then with, the birth of WWF. But again, we'll talk about anything. We'll tackle any issue. I'll tell you what we know. We talk to people, backstage what's going on, and we've already discussed so many controversial topics over the years, Frank. We're always open to tackle any issue out there. So it was good to hear some feedback, and this really does remind me of those old hotline days of 2004, 2005.
Yeah, I enjoy coming up here and doing the podcast. It's fun to me because a lot of people out there like wrestling and they like to hear people's opinions of it. And sometimes the people's opinions that you're listening to are your own. So a lot of people like hearing that. And I can tell you one thing about the old days up until now. The old days back then when we were doing the podcast on or doing the hotline on Fillmore. TNA sucks then, but it sucks. Yeah. It sucks even more now. And I'm telling you, it used to be that the roster at TNA used to be the number one roster in the business. I can't even say that anymore because the company is just so bad. It's really hard to watch Impact now. And I'm going to go on a limb and say the product was a lot better when they had the aces and eights running around there. That's just my opinion. Because I'm just not, I don't know about you, Steve. I don't know if you're watching the product right now or not. We can put this in real quick. What do you think of Magnus as the current TNA champion?
I don't like it. I like Magnus. I think he could be a good mid-card guy.
Yeah.
And I understand the process of TNA saying, we've got to, create new stars but Magnus, I don't see world championship material in Magnus. I'm not saying he's not a good wrestler, and he's definitely improved. He's come a long way, but I wouldn't give him the strap. That's just how I feel.
I'm not digging it at all. I don't think Magnus, like you said, Magnus is championship material. Not at this point in his career.
No,
I'm not digging it.
Not at all.
I'm not digging the whole Dixieland. My God, man, Dixie Carter is in every single segment. People can say what you want to. Listen, I'm for one. I'll talk crap about Grandpa Huxter all day, about him being in every segment on the show. But my God, man, which one would you rather have? Would you rather have Hogan out there in every segment or Dixie Carter? At least Hogan. I know I give you two bad selections, two bad choices there, but
I was going to say,
my God.
I know what you're saying. I think it was last week where it was like it seemed like every segment was Dixie Carter.
Yeah. And
it's like, okay, once in a while she's the, president of the company, but she was like in every segment. And there was people on like social media, like Missy Hyatt was commenting on social media, Twitter, how over you can't just stomach it. She's out there all the time, and I don't know. Does she think she's the biggest star in the company? I don't know. She thinks she's the most engaging character because she's not. I don't know.
I see a low rent. I see a very low rent Stephanie McMahon there, wannabe.
Gosh, I don't even think she's in the same. She's not even. I mean, she's more in the league of Linda McMahon than Stephanie. I mean, Stephanie's got more charisma than Dixie Carter.
No, I can't say that, Steve. I just saw an episode of Raw on Classics on Demand a few weeks ago where they came out there. It was a night that McMahon revealed himself as a greater power. And
oh, come on, Frank. That was years ago. I'm talking about now. I mean, Dixie Carter is so. Oh, what's the word?
She sucks, dude. I'm telling you, she sucks. She does. She's horrible.
So forced down your neck. I mean, Stephanie is not great, but I can tolerate Stephanie. Dixie Carter, I can't. I mean, she is such a forced character that just has no appeal to anybody. I mean, years ago she looked good. She's an attractive woman, but I mean, thinking today she's not like she used to be. I mean, there's just nothing about her that I want to see her. And in segment after segment, it's just beat a dead horse already, you know?
Well, in all fairness, Steve, I have heard that, the reason why Dixie is like she is Dixie likes to have a lot of drinks. So that could be what the problem is there, is why she doesn't look as good as she used to years ago. But,
well, I guess if I was running TNA, I'd probably want some drinks too.
Well, yeah. And I will say this, that she blows. She does. She sucks.
She blows.
The whole angle is terrible. But I can't believe the irony of Missy Hyatt really talking about Dixie Carter. I mean, when the last time was Missy Hyatt? When the last time was she relevant to anything?
Well, I guess she's still a very passionate. She'll review like UWF shows, and she'll tweet about it, and she watches the current products, and she gives her 2 cents on it. And I think sometimes her points are very relevant and right on. And just when she was tweeting about Dixie, and it wasn't just her, there was other people on social media too that was just. They just couldn't believe it was another segment of Dixie Carter, and it's like, when is this insanity going to stop? And the next segment is about Dixie Carter, and here she comes talking about this and that. And
well, I'll tell you what, it's all Vince Russo's fault.
Must be.
Yeah.
Even if he's not there, it's got to be Vince Russo's fault.
It has to be Russo. I mean, that's what Jim Cornette says, so it has to be Russo.
Well, we're talking about social media, and I did plug that, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. You can like us on Facebook. We have the fan page for Gerweck.net. I'm on @Gerweck. That's for the wrestling website and all the wrestling updates. I'm also on, my personal is just @Steve Gerweck, all one word, and that's where I fight the real New World Order, Frank, not the NWO porno music you heard at the Royal Rumble. I'm talking about the real New World Order that's taking over, that's destroying our dollar, destroying our freedoms, destroying our liberties. So if that interests you, definitely follow me on Twitter @Steve Gerweck. But if you just want the wrestling news and opinions and tweets and interesting tweets of other socialites out there, definitely follow me @Gerweck. I don't know, Frank, are you out there anywhere that fans can check you out or message you in any way?
Not right this second. I probably will be in the coming weeks, and I'll let that information out. But I'll tell you one thing, Steve. You just killed your whole chance of getting in the Hall of Fame one day right there with your fighting of the real NWO. I don't really think they're going to want to put you in the Hall of Fame now.
Which Hall of Fame is this?
This the Wrestling Hall of Fame. The conspiracy theories that come out of this. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people would like it up there in Connecticut.
Oh, am I supposed to believe like 9/11 really happened the way they told me? Is that what I'm supposed to believe?
Yeah. I think you just killed your whole thing.
15 out of the 19 hijackers are Saudis, but then when we invade Afghanistan and Iran. But I'm supposed to believe the official story, Frank.
Hey, I don't believe nothing.
Tower 7 fell by itself at 5 p.m. later in that day.
Well,
so it must be true. If this is the argument I always hear, if it's on television, it must be right. So if this was an inside job, they would tell you that on television, wouldn't they, Frank?
I would believe they. I believe they would. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I told you years ago. You know, it was the video that I saw on YouTube of the Tower 7 building falling to begin with. On his, I mean, why would they need to get rid of that building? I mean, that's stuff right there that's weird to me, and that's why I tell the people out there, like Steve just said, we can tackle any topic, and there's no fear of us talking about it. Period. I don't care. I mean, I'm the one who got Steve into this in the first place.
Absolutely, and Frank was more awake than I was. I remember Frank telling me about 9/11, and I was very skeptical because, you know, honestly, Frank, I thought 9/11 truth was all about smearing George Bush, and at that time, I admit I was a George Bush fan. I voted for George Bush twice. I'm not proud of that now, knowing what I know now. I definitely wouldn't vote for either R or D anymore based on, you know, I know that both parties are essentially controlled by the same groups. But, you know, Frank was there telling me a long time ago, you know, watch this video. And all of a sudden, you know, it's like all of a sudden, Frank's like someday the pieces just all fit together. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, oh, yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah. All of these, I mean, they were, the planes were in the air for over an hour. And our $1 trillion defense system couldn't shoot them down? Yeah, that's odd. And these hijackers just trained, and they could suddenly fly an airplane and take it down low to the ground and hit the Pentagon just perfectly, even though other airline pilots who've flown for 30 years said there's no way they could do it? Huh. Well, but these guys suddenly could do the airplane without hitting the ground and hitting the Pentagon square. Gosh, I guess they were very talented hijackers.
Well, here's two things on that, right? Two things right there on this situation here. And I know the people out there listening to it like, what the hell are they talking about? It ain't wrestling. But here's the deal. The thing that I always look at in the situation is number one, when you look at the video of the attack on the Pentagon, where the hell is the plane? Number two, out there in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where's the plane? All you see on that scene is smoke coming up from a big hole in the ground. Somebody dug with a what are those things called? What was a bulldozer or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the hell it is. That's all it is. And I have never seen any evidence of a plane in there. So people need to wake up, because Steve isn't crazy. I'm not crazy. You know, we just go out there and do a little more. We just go out there and do a little bit more research than everybody else to see what's really going on. You can see what's going on every single day. You can honestly see when you go out there and you read about all the different ways of how you're getting, you know, cancers and all this stuff in your body and everything. I mean, people, it's time to wake up. You know, seriously. I mean, it's cool to come out here and joke about wrestling and talk about wrestling and all that, but it's time to also talk about the real world. Your life is depending on it.
I think the more likely scenario, and again, I agree with you, Frank. You know, where is the plane in Pennsylvania? I think the more likely scenario is the military shot that plane down, and they realized that, you know, an attack was really going on, and they didn't want that to be known. They didn't want that plane to be shot down, so they covered that up. And I think that's probably the more likely scenario, what happened there in Pennsylvania. I could be wrong, because I think in the final equation we'll never know all the answers, but this is where you have to ask the questions. And if nothing else, go check out the engineers, architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. And these are guys that built buildings, designed buildings, and they went back and reviewed all the 9/11 footage, and they're just telling you it's impossible what really happened versus what they told you in the media. And these are people with 30, 40 years experience building buildings, designing buildings. They're putting their reputations on the line. They're telling you they have master's degrees and bachelor's degrees from all these major universities. It's like a 2-hour document. I think it might have aired on PBS. Excellent piece of work there. And even if you don't want to believe it, just to listen to what these people have to say makes you question, you know. And I don't know, I've just gotten to the point where almost anything they tell me anymore, Frank, I just like, really? When they tell me the unemployment rate's going down, and yet Wall Street Journal will do a study and say it's probably like 37% unemployment in this country, and yet they tell me it's 7.5%, it's going down. And I know that Obamacare is a big screw job for the health insurance industry, and that they're going to make all these trillions of dollars off us and control our dental and medical records. And we got the NSA spying on us, listening to every conversation, watching every TV show we watch. Every mail, a piece of mail that comes into our house is scanned and read. Every phone conversation, every text message you make. I mean, there's appliances in your house listening to what you have to say. They probably have pictures of you naked. They know all your anything. Every time you take snap a picture on your phone, they download it to their circuit as well. I mean, if you know this information, it all fits together. It's just you have to be willing to kind of to step out of the box and look at it from a broader perspective. And if you're not into that at all, and I know people that are not, they're going to think you're crazy. And there's people that told me I'm crazy or look at you like, really? But then, again, go back and, if nothing else, do your research. Go back and look things up. I mean, just on 9/11, if you do a search on 9/11, there's going to be obviously a lot of coverage of what happened at 9/11, but the films that have been produced that wants you to just, if nothing else, reopen the investigation. All the victims of 9/11 that have come forward and say, I don't believe this official story, are all the people that were affected in the rescue mission that got sick from breathing all that smoke and dust and debris that had to fight for years to get their health care. And then, when they do the 9/11 memorial, they're not even invited, the first responders, because a lot of them questioned the official story. And that's the society. That's what we live in today. And again, even if you don't want to believe 9/11 is an inside job, just go look up some of these topics, look up some of the research out there. And I think it's important now to do it on the World Wide Web now, because, I mean, they have kill switches for the internet. I mean, they could do the next 9/11 and say, we got to turn all communications off. I'm sorry, no cell phones, no World Wide Web. They have the kill switches. They control all that. They control TV. They control radio. And we could be totally in the dark. We couldn't even, me and Frank, he's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, and, we couldn't even communicate. And so that's why it's so important with the amount of information that's out there, Frank, is to access it, because you take things for granted. You take the World Wide Web for granted, but it may not be there tomorrow.
Yeah, and all the concepts that you just talked about are very, very, very scary as far as a lot of stuff that's going on. And, people just need to, wake up. And I'm going to tell you right now, I will trust the word of New York City firefighters any day who said they were going up to the Twin Towers and they heard explosions going off above them as they were going up into the building. Now, I will hear that, and they said it was like, they thought it was like somebody was setting out bombs up there or something. So I believe their word any day over somebody who has their own agenda. And all I can say is that the world is a scary place, and every day it gets scarier.
Well, I mean, just that alone, obviously they had to blow out the core columns, because steel buildings, I don't know if people realize this, the skyscrapers at 9/11, the Twin Towers, were steel structures.
Right.
Look up how many times in history steel structures have fallen from fires. In fact, the only time it's ever happened is at 9/11.
Yeah. And
there was a building in Spain that was a steel building that was an office fire, and it burnt for days. It didn't fall down. Steel structures are they built those Twin Towers with the idea that a plane could hit those in the 70s and withstand the impact, and obviously withstand any fire that would come from it. When you see that initial hit and the fireball goes outside the building, that's the gasoline. That's the gasoline they want you to believe landed inside the building and got on, started on fire, and what took those buildings down. But it was a 93rd floor. It would take days, if you think about it, for the core columns to burn out, so that the free fall of that building, it fell into its own footprint. It didn't just fall, one floor at a time, and then it falls another floor. I mean, it free fell, and obviously they tore out the core columns to pancake itself, demolition style. And again, I mean, a lot of people don't even know there was a Trade Center 7 tower.
Right.
47 stories, went down, 4:40 in the afternoon? And, of course, it was reported on the BBC, 10 minutes before it happened, that Building 7 fell before it did. And they even had pictures they're in the background, they're showing the Tower 7, and it's still standing, and they're reporting on BBC that Trade Center 7 fell. How could they report that Trade Center 7 fell 10 minutes before it happened unless they had some information that it was going to fall?
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't even hit.
Yeah, at that point in time, we were much in cahoots with Tony Blair over there. So, all I can say about it is that I believe that it was an inside deal. 9/11 was, and I feel bad for all the people that died that day. And they basically got away with murder, and they're continuing to get away with it.
And not to totally change the subject, but they got away with murder down in Benghazi as well.
Yeah.
People follow that, but Obama, Hillary, either they let that happen and let the ambassador and the Marines be killed down there, or they were so stupid that they didn't know how to react to that situation. Either way, the blood is on their hands. And if anybody's thinking about Hillary in 2016, you get your head examined and look up her CIA connections, because she's a worm just as big as Obama's a worm. And I'm not saying the Republicans are better, because a lot of those Republicans are worms. I thought Romney's a worm. I mean, he did his own Obamacare in Massachusetts. We had McCain in 2008. He's a worm. He's about as liberal as they come. I mean, he's basically a Democrat, and he was Republican running as a Republican. I mean, it's because they control both parties. It's like Vince McMahon controlling the baby faces and the heels.
Well, there are no baby faces.
You can't lose anymore. Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of parallels I think you can tie to wrestling with what's going on. And obviously, the most glaring is that there was actually a faction called the New World Order that was trying to take over WCW, because that's what's happening in the real world. Is the New World Order is taking over the real world, and of course, that's all of us. So if they take over the real world, like they're got a pretty good firm hand on it right now. I mean, if we put up with TSA groping us and we put up with the NSA spying us, I mean, we're not that far from Nazi Germany. They take our guns, Frank, we're in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. But, well, they're not going to take mine.
Me either. Well, again, we'll throw it out to you. Anything, as you see, we sampled a lot of topics there in addition to wrestling. We're always open to talk about what's really going on. If there's any topics you want us to discuss, obviously wrestling related, we're more than happy to do it. We did it for how many years, Frank? Years ago with a hotline, and we just easily covered 90 minutes and went beyond that on this podcast. So we're throwing it out there. If you want to or make a comment on something we commented about as well, we can always respond to that as well. So we'll gladly take your feedback. Either leave us a message on Gerweck.net in the comment section under this podcast, or as I said, you can email me at betweentheropes@hotmail.com. Social media, Twitter, Facebook. Obviously, Frank will probably eventually get back on Twitter. I think he got a little burned out on Twitter, didn't you, there, Frank?
Oh, I got bored with Twitter, man. I got bored with all the Scott Hall updates about what he was eating, and I got bored with all the people begging Hulk Hogan for an RT, and I mean, come on, man.
You got to take a lot of the grain of salt. I mean, I'm just amazed, like when Jim Ross farts, it's reported on the other website. So,
hey, man, leave JR alone. I mean, that guy there. You know what? That's the guy right there. That is the hardest working retired man I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Jim Ross, but I mean, anything he says is reported on the website. If he brushes his teeth, it's reported on the website.
Hey, the man gets more play than Vince McMahon does. How about that? And now that Jim Ross has signed to Fox Sports, he's gonna let loose now.
Yeah, TNA missed the boat.
Yep.
But I can't imagine him fitting in TNA right at this point. And he probably knows it's a sinking ship. He doesn't want to be a part of it. But why didn't he at least reach out to him and at least freshen up the product a little bit?
They got Mike Tenay.
They got Mike Tenay. So what am I talking about?
Yeah, they got Mike Tenay and they got Taz out there. So.
Who I think I was reading in the last Observer. He was voted the worst announcer in wrestling.
Who was voted that?
Taz.
Oh, I can't believe it. I thought you were talking about Tenay. Because he's not better. This is the reason why, folks, that back in the day on WCW, Shivani was the lead announcer, and Tenay was on the side. Because Tenay should not be doing shows on his own.
I really think if they gave him a really good color commentator, he would be, because he knows all the moves, he knows all the personalities. But again, it's that old argument of Shivani. People got tired of Shivani because the product was so stale. And it's like, how do you make something exciting like TNA when it's so boring? You can't polish a turd.
No, you can't. I mean, it shows in Jerry Lawler's commentary every week.
Well, that's our podcast for today. We, again, appreciate any comments, feedback you can leave us here on the website, Gerweck.net. Follow us on social media, Twitter, @Gerweck, or @Gerweck, or Steve Gerweck, @Steve Gerweck. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook as well. My personal page up there. We update the website as well. Put all the updates about what's going on. Congratulations to our Royal Rumble giveaway pool winners. Give away Booker T book, the Jimmy Snuka autobiography, and the Kevin Steen ROH DVD. You can check those out as well. And again, Frank, it's always been a pleasure talking to you, tackling all these issues. And I'm glad we got a chance to talk about Royal Rumble. And who knows, maybe we'll talk about some real world issues in a future podcast.
I would look forward to it.